So, Pakistan and India almost went to war. And it all started because of an attack in this region called Kashmir. And by this point, I think we all have an idea of why the Kashmir issue actually exists. And if you don't know and you want to know more about that, there are loads of videos online explaining everything about that since the partition of India and Pakistan. But what I want to talk about today goes a little bit back to the root of the issue. Pre-partition India, when the British actually made a separate princely state of Kashmir. The question is, why did the British make a separate princely state of Kashmir? Why were the current borders chosen as the borders? And who ended up ruling that state? Because it was the same family that was in power when in 1947 the partition of India and Pakistan took place, and the whole issue of the ruling family supporting India as opposed to the Muslim majority people which wanted something else, or we don't know what they wanted because there was no referendum. So that's where the entire issue actually began. So to understand the root cause of the issue, we really need to go back before partition times and see what went down then. Hi, my name is Misha and welcome to Tarihi Tales. I know it's been a while, but now we are back. And if you want to watch the same video in Urdu, I have another channel called Tarihi Tales Urdu where you can watch the same video in Urdu. And if you want to help this channel, you want to help it grow, there are a number of ways you can do that. You can become a paid member on our Patreon, or you can become a paid member of this channel. Or if you're in Pakistan and you want to help out, you can do so by using the number on the screen. Other than that, obviously you can like, share, subscribe, comment, turn on the notification bell. All of that good stuff really helped us out as well. Thank you. If you go a little bit back from the British Empire, we see that this entire region of this Baltistan Ladakh area was actually home to semi-independent Muslim and Buddhist states which were ruled by autocratic chiefs. Eventually, the area we know as Kashmir came to be under the Mughal Empire. It was ruled by them for some time, and then it was ruled by the Afghan Durrani family, and then in 1819, Ranjit Singh conquered it and made it part of his kingdom of Lahore. And then the British came into the picture. And once they annexed Punjab, they did something that they thought they're really good at. But if history is any telling, they really were not. They drew a border and carved out this princely state of Jammu and Kashmir. And then they actually sold Kashmir to a guy called Gulab Singh Dogra. Now, the creation of this state of Kashmir basically came about at the end of the first Sikh War in 1846. And it was done formally by the use of two treaties. The first treaty was the Treaty of Lahore, which was signed between the British, then 7-8-year-old king, Maharaja Gulab Singh. The treaty actually stated that Maharaja Gulab Singh hereby agrees to recognize the independent sovereignty of Gulab Singh in such territories and districts as may be made over to the said Raja Gulab Singh by separate agreement between himself and the British government, with the dependencies thereof which may have been in Raja's possession since the time of Maharaja Ranjit Singh. A week later, on 16th March 1846, the British government signed a separate treaty, the Treaty of Amritsar, with Gulab Singh. And in this treaty, they gave additional land to Gulab Singh in addition to things that he already owned. And this was kind of phrased as all the hilly mountainous country with its dependencies situated to the eastward of River Indus and westward of the Ravi. So the new state of Jammu and Kashmir was born. And this included the Jammu Jagirs, which were given to the Dogra brothers a while back, but were held by Gulab Singh alone for a while now. And then this additional area, which was carved out from the kingdom of Lahore, which was under Ranjit Singh. Now, the Dogra family was still the ruling family when the partition of India and Pakistan took place, and the entire issue of the referendum and all of that took place. So it's really important to know who these people were, what was going on in the background, and why did the British let this guy buy Kashmir. So Gulab Singh was a direct descendant of a Hindu Raja called Derudu. This Raja actually first established his family as a ruling family of the area of Jammu during the declining years of the Mughal Empire. But with time, when the Sikh power actually grew in the region of Punjab under Ranjit Singh, and they basically conquered the area in 1808, Gulab Singh at that point realized that the Sikh power is a little bit too much for him to handle, and for now, maybe that is the side that he should be on. So Jammu basically came under the control of the Sikhs soon after, and Gulab Singh joined the ranks of the Sikh army as a normal soldier. But soon he distinguished himself with certain victories, and by 1820 he was actually awarded a Jageer worth rupees 40,000 by Ranjit Singh. This Jageer was near Jammu, and due to his excellent performance from then onwards, soon he was actually allowed to have his own little army, and he was made the hereditary Raja of Jammu as well, with an annual income of about 3 lakhs. So this is how Gulab Singh and the Dogra brothers basically got the Jammu Jagirs back from Ranjit Singh, and they were already under them by the time this annexation of Punjab happened. So that's how he got Jammu. But now let's get to the Kashmir side as to how he got the rest of the area that the British gave him, which they carved out of the Kingdom of Lahore. Now, as I mentioned, that this carving out was basically done at the end of the First Anglo-Sikh War. And now it's within that war that we see the role of Gulab Singh really coming through, and we understand why the British gave this guy Kashmir. Now, if you want a detailed account of the Anglo-Sikh Wars, I have an entire series which talk about the Sikh Empire in great detail, and you can find the details over there. But for now, we'll start with the last battle that happened between the Sikhs and the British. That battle took place on February 10th, 1846 at Sabran. And it's actually quite interesting to see that how and why the Sikhs lost this battle. In this battle, we see two main characters emerging. One of them is called Tej Singh, and the other is called Gulab Singh. And these two actually became traitors from the Sikh army and joined in agreement with the British in the first week of February. The reason we know all of this is because there is a British officer by the name of Joseph Davy Cunningham who was placed in Bahawalpur at that point, and he saw all of this going down. And later in life, he actually wrote a book called A History of the Sikhs, and he kind of unveils all the underhand methods that the British had used to win the war. And it's within that book that we find details of the treason and the agreements between these traitors and the British. He said that the traitors were actually given very clear instructions by the British. And I'll put a quote here from his book which says that the Sikh army should be attacked by the English, and that when beaten it should be openly abandoned by its own government. Further, that the passage of the Sutlej should be unopposed and the road to the capital laid open to the victor. Under such circumstances of discreet policy and shameless treason was the Battle of Sabran fought. We also know that a third traitor also existed during this time called Lal Singh, and he made sure to send the British the exact battle plans of the Sikh army, so they knew everything beforehand. Gulab Singh Dogra actually took another route, and he started cutting the food rations and money to the army and basically starving his own people. So the things got so bad that the soldiers ended up eating raw carrots and gram. And some of the soldiers actually even went back to the Maharani to tell her that, this is what's going on. And she didn't believe them because she thought, well, I've put in so much money towards the war effort. How can you not have food? What they didn't realize was that Gulab Singh was actually making sure that food was not reaching the army. After weakening the soldiers this way, the other traitor, Tej Singh, he actually drowned a lot of his countrymen who were actually on bridges on the Sutlej, and he blew up the bridges, drowning them in large numbers. So using such tactics is how the British actually won the battle. They crossed the Sutlej on the night of February 10th and 11th, and as promised, they were not opposed. And according to the treaties that they drafted, Kashmir was being sold to pay for the war that took place. And Gulab Singh Dogra ended up buying Kashmir. And here's the biggest irony, he bought Kashmir from the money that he actually took from the Lahore Darbar itself. There was this entire episode of how this other traitor Lal Singh actually thought that that's quite unfair. The British should have given him Kashmir because he did a lot more for them. He was the bigger traitor. But he was exiled instead. That's a long story. So anyways, now we know a little bit about Gulab Singh as a person, as to who he was and why he was given Kashmir. But to think that he was given Kashmir solely because he was a traitor is kind of a misrepresentation, because then why were all the other traitors not given states as well? That wasn't really part of the deal. There must be some other reason as to why Kashmir was drafted up. It wasn't just to gift Gulab Singh Dogra something. The British must have had an ulterior motive. And they did. So the British were primarily concerned with their strategic interest in this region. What they needed was a strong power to kind of secure their northwestern border. Since 1809, the British had a clear policy towards the region above the Sutlej River. They wanted a strong, independent Sikh state to kind of stay there because that really helped them out. It was strong enough to fend off the Afghans, but because of historical, ideological, and religious differences, they were not likely to shake hands with the Afghans against the British. And also, the power was not so big that the British felt threatened. So, a strong Sikh state was really ideal for them, and it was doing really well till the lifetime of Ranjit Singh. However, after Ranjit Singh's death, conditions that made the Sikh state so good for the British began to crumble. Because as we covered in our Sikh series, that after Ranjit Singh, one after the other of his successors started dying, and in weird ways sometimes, there was really no stability left in the Sikh empire. And that, combined with unrest within the population as well as the Khalsa army, which was a Sikh army, not being in control of the crown, kind of caused a lot of alarm for the British. There was actually a very strong fear among the British that because the crown is so weak at the moment and there's unrest in the region, this may give rise to a new ruling class coming into power in this region, and the worst would be if that ruling class was Muslim. I am not just saying this, there are actually letters and correspondences between Britishers of that time talking about this exact problem and this exact fear. One of the correspondences is from Sir Henry Hardinge. He was the Governor General of India between 1844 and 1848. And it was during his regime that the Dogra state of Jammu and Kashmir was actually established. And we have one of his correspondences with another British officer called Ripon, and he writes to him that the emergence of a Muslim state was likely to excite and revive Musalman hopes throughout India and become a perpetual source of anxiety to the government of India. The British actually end up discussing multiple solutions to this problem, and they have a lot of letters and things going back and forth. They talk about maybe we can take over the entire region and govern it ourselves, but somebody else points out that that's going to be really, really costly for us. And then after the Anglo-Sikh War, they realized that they might not really be able to take control of the region themselves completely, because even with all the traitors, they barely won the war. I mean, there are actual correspondences saying that if the traitors were not there, then the British would have lost completely. It's the Britishers who are saying this to each other. So basically, this fear of the Afghan border and this fear of a Muslim power rising in this area and reviving Muslim hopes within India, which is mostly now British India, and again, this limitation that they cannot rule the entire area and take control and secure the northwestern frontier themselves, kind of gives rise to this need of creating a buffer state. And that's exactly what they needed when they drafted out this area of Jammu and Kashmir. They wanted a state that was between them and the Afghans, and the bonus point was that since this was being carved out of this kingdom of Lahore, that's also weakening the kingdom of Lahore. And again, because it's going to the Dogras, there is this ideological and religious difference between them and the Afghans, which will make sure that they don't join hands. And all of that really benefits the Britishers. So that's why the Treaty of Amritsar was signed a week after the Treaty of Lahore between Maharaja Gulab Singh Dogra and the British. And for this new region, Gulab Singh actually ended up paying the British 1 crore. So that is how the Dogras became the ruling family of Jammu and Kashmir, and why the British carved out that separate princely state, which for the last couple of 100 years was actually parts of different kingdoms and not really an independent state. Now, this history was really important to know because it is those decisions taken in the 1800s that have led to conflicts even till today. Even today, people are losing lives because of decisions taken that long ago. Conflicts where two nuclear powers almost went to war. And we see that this was all kind of planned by the British, obviously not foreseeing the two states being nuclear powers and all that, but instilling the unrest where they would put a Hindu Raja over a Muslim majority area and then would kind of make sure that that region is kind of divided. It kind of lays the foundation for the issue that we see today. If you want to know where I got all of my information from and everything, I'll put the links down below in the description box. You can go and have a look. They're all accredited historical sources, which are basically works of historians which are reviewed by other historians, and they've agreed that, yep, your research is legit. So have a look, let me know what you think about this video, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.